back in September 2024, I started working in this Italian restaurant here in London as a waiter. And I remember when I applied for this job, this was back in 2024, and bear in mind in 2023 I dropped out of university. So in 2024 I got this full-time job. And guys, full-time in hospitality, maybe some of you guys are working in the hospitality sector right now, means that you have weeks where you can work 40, 50, but sometimes you can even work up to 60, 65 hours. And sometimes that used to be the case. Luckily, this job was a 10-minute walk away from my house. So for the first couple of months, it was pretty manageable with all my other things that I had going on. For example, at the time I was going to the gym very consistently. And you know, it was fine because it was only a 10-minute walk from my house, which meant that I could go to the gym before going to work, sometimes even after work. But overall, it wasn't really a problem. I could see friends, I could you know, I could go to the gym, I could see my family. It was very manageable because it was just a 10-minute walk from my house. However, after 3 months, so I started this job in September, but I remember in I think it was around January, February or something, so maybe a bit more than 3 months, my family decided to move outside of London, and we moved in this place called Pinner. I don't know if you guys are Londoners, maybe you know where Pinner is, but bear in mind this job that I had was in Chiswick, which is, you can put Pinner and Chiswick on Google Maps, and it's about an hour and 15 minutes away. And I decided to keep the job because it was paying all right. I made friends at my workplace, and overall I kind of liked working there. So I decided to keep this job. That meant that it didn't take me 10 minutes to get to work. It would take me about an hour and 15 minutes to get to work. It wasn't a simple walk to work. I remember I used to take a bus to the first metro station, then I used to take the Piccadilly line all the way to Acton, then I used to, from Acton town, I used to get a district line. So I would change 2 different undergrounds, I'll get a bus, and you know, it would take me an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes even an hour and a half, because sometimes the tube wouldn't even work, because sometimes here in London they do these stupid strikes. So the tube sometimes wouldn't even work, and it would take me up to 2 hours. Because the commute was so long to get to work, I started to skip some of my workouts because, you know, sometimes I would have double shifts, and those double shifts would start from 10 in the morning and they would end at 11 p.m, sometimes 11:30 at night. And because I lived so far away, that meant waking up 2 hours before work started. So let's say 8 o'clock, sometimes even 7:30. You know, have breakfast, go have a shower, and then commute about an hour and 15 minutes to work, and you know, get there at 10 in the morning, leave at like 11 p.m, 11:15, and get back at around 1 in the morning, and then do that again. And now I used to have this double shifts around, let's say 4 days a week, 3 days a week, and then I would also have like shifts starting from like 5 p.m to 11 for the remaining days of the week. However, because I had like 3-4 long shifts each week, that meant that I started to skip many of my workouts. Like if before I would wake up, for example, at 8, then go to the gym, stay 1 hour in the gym, and then go to work when I used to live close to the restaurant. When we moved so far from my workplace, that meant that all I could do was wake up and go to work. I didn't have time to train, and I pretty much didn't really have time to do anything. I didn't have the time to go to the gym because that meant waking up at like 6 in the morning, then 6 or 7 you are in the gym, then you come back home, but then you're gonna finish work at 11, so you're pretty much sleep deprived. Overall, it was not sustainable. I actually did that like a couple of times, but it wasn't sustainable in the long run. Now, one time I was at work, and usually when I was at work, I would go on break at around 3 p.m. So if I would start at 10 in the morning, I would go on break at 3 p.m, have a break from 3 to 4, and then, you know, finish the rest of my shifts, so from 4 to like 11, 11:15, 11:30. And I remember this time because I was at the restaurant and I was working, and it was almost 3 p.m. Bear in mind, at the time I wasn't training consistently because, as I said before, I generally could not find the time to train. So I remember that this time I probably skipped training for like 5 days in a row, which for me, guys, it's absolutely crazy. Maybe for some of you guys as well, if you really care about going to the gym, you really care about having this aesthetic body and being strong, missing 5 workouts in a row, it ruins your mental health, I'm telling you guys. And I remember this time I was at work and it was almost 3 p.m. and I was like constantly staring at the clock. I literally could not wait to go on break. And I was already in a bad mood because, as I said before, I didn't train for 5 days. So I remember that as soon as the clock hit 3 p.m, I went on break, and instead of, eating as I usually do with my colleagues, or instead of like chilling on the chairs, on the sofas, like, scrolling on my phone and everything, I went to this park, this playground actually, which was literally right next to the restaurant. It was like a 3-minute walk from the restaurant. And I started training. I started going on the swings and I started doing pull-ups in the swings. Then I started doing push-ups. Then I started doing ab work. And I remember doing that for like, from like 3 p.m. to like 3:45. And then I remember like running back to the restaurant, eat something very quickly, and then going back to work straight away. And that's when I realized that if I wanted to train, I had to give something away. I had to, sacrifice something. And in that case, that meant sacrificing my time, eating, chilling on my break at work, and instead going to the park and training. I didn't do this just once. I did this for the next year. So for a full year, that's what I did. Every time I had a break during my long shifts, which were the days where I couldn't train, I would go to the park, go to the playground. It wasn't even a park, it was literally a playground next to my restaurant. And I would train there. And luckily, no one would go to this playground because it would be a bit weird if people were there. But luckily, no one would literally go to this playground. It was always empty. And that meant that I could literally go there every time I had a break and train. And I used to do pull-ups, push-ups, pretty much any body weight exercise that you could think of. And I remember many times going back to work and I was literally sweating. It was pretty disgusting, I know, but I really couldn't give a fuck because all I wanted to do was find the time to train. This was actually quite hilarious because I remember one time, one of my very close friends, which used to work with me, he actually started calling me a gym freak. So around the restaurant, everybody started calling me a gym freak because they would like notice that I started like training at this playground every fucking time I had a break, and people started calling me a gym freak, which, it wasn't something which I was actually a little bit proud of, because I was like, you know what, fuck it, let me just like go and train, because if I can't do this during the day because I'm literally stuck in this stupid job, let me just make the most out of my fucking break and let me go and train. Bear in mind, guys, this wasn't just a normal 9-to-5 job where you just sit in front of your desk and then when it's break you finally get the chance to go walk around. This was a hospitality job in a busy Italian restaurant, and those of you guys that work in hospitality, especially as a waiter, you guys understand what I'm trying to say is you're basically on your feet the whole time, and the only time that you can go and break, all you want to do, all you're thinking of is literally just sit down. And I'm not just saying this to say, oh guys, like look what I was doing, but it's just it's kind of sort of like to motivate you guys to just find the time and train. And this is actually where my love for calisthenics began, because, at the time I didn't really have the time to go to the gym and just lift normal weights. All I could do were push-ups, pull-ups, dips, bar dips, squat, body weight squats, literally just body weight exercises. And this is why I love calisthenics, is because you literally have no excuses. You can do it any way you like, even if it's just doing simple push-ups. You literally have no excuses to start doing calisthenics. It's literally anybody can do it at any time, everywhere. This is why calisthenics, I think it's in my opinion my favorite discipline, my favorite sport discipline. I prefer it a lot more than the gym, is because you can just do it anywhere. Now, the reason why I'm even telling you the story, the reason why I'm even telling you about this is because I hear a lot of people making excuses saying that they don't have the time to train. Now, you guys probably, maybe you can relate to this, but this used to be me as well. Like, even though I had like a 14-hour shift, living 1 hour away from my house, I still found the time to train. And this goes to show that if you really want something, like if you really want to find the time to train or do any hobby that you have, it doesn't have to be training. Let's say that you want to learn how to code, you want to learn how to play guitar, you want to learn how to play tennis. We all have the time to do that. And, you know, we really all have the time to train and to dedicate even half an hour for our hobbies during the day. Now, a lot of you guys, maybe some of you guys work 16 hours a day, and you're like, what the fuck do I find the time to train? I mean, I'm sure you have a break. Now, of course, this is not sustainable. I did this for a year. Many people, unfortunately, are stuck at the job for like the rest of their lives, and that I understand that. I completely understand that. And I'm telling you guys, this is not sustainable. I did this for a year. There's people who do this for like 20 years. However, those people that are just lazy to train, you need to be grateful that you actually have the time to train. That if you really want to train, you can literally go to your room now and do like 10 push-ups. Like, you don't need the best gym, you don't need the best equipment, you don't need the fanciest like gym clothes. This video, I actually really take it to heart, because I understand those guys that work like in hospitality job, where you work any other jobs and can't find the time to train. Now I want to give you like a routine which I did when I was working this job. So this training routine is actually very efficient, because it literally used to take me like 40 minutes, half an hour, and it's actually very intense. What you're going to do is, hopefully you have like a pull-up bar or something. If you don't have a pull-up bar, that's absolutely fine as well. So if you guys have a pull-up bar, it could literally be a swing. I literally used to do pull-ups in a swing. What you're going to do is you're going to do 5 pull-ups, and then straight after that you're going to do 10 push-ups, and you're going to repeat this for 10 times, and then you're going to do some crunches and some plank. Literally, it's so easy. Now, if you do not have a pull-up bar, what you're going to do is you're just going to do a 20 minutes EMOM for push-ups. So every minute you're going to do a certain amount of push-ups. Let's say that you can do 10 push-ups. You're going to do 10 push-ups on the minute for 20 minutes, and that's an EMOM. So every minute you're doing a certain number of reps, and you don't need equipment for that. You can literally do push-ups in your bedroom, you can literally do push-ups in the toilet, you can do that anywhere. And then you're going to finish off by doing some abs, you can do some squats. There's just so many different exercises that you can do. And if you really think that you don't have the time, just try and break down your day. So you have 24 hours in a day. Let's say that 8 of those you sleep, so you're left with 16. Now let's say that you take 3 hours to eat all your meals throughout the day, and you're left with 13 hours. Then let's say that you work 8 hours, so you're left with 5. Let's say that you watch YouTube for like 2 hours, you're left with 3. Let's say that you scroll down for like 2 hours. You know what I mean, guys? Try and break down your day, and I am pretty sure that 99.9% of you guys can have at least 45 minutes to 1 hour where you can just dedicate it to your fucking health and you can train. And guys, in my case, I had to give up sometimes food just to train. Now that's an extreme. I don't really recommend any of you guys doing that, but sometimes, guys, you just have to like give up something in order to do something else. In my case, I sometimes have to give up time spending with my colleagues on my break to chat, to chill, and I had to go by myself to the park and train. And this is sometimes the sacrifices that you have to do if you really want it. So guys, this was the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I motivated some of you guys in order to train and find the time to, doesn't really have to be train, but like find the time to do some sort of hobby that you like but that you think you don't really have the time to do. Because if you really break down your day, I am pretty sure that you can find the time to do anything that you want.